Chicago White Sox pitching coach Ethan Katz said that they needed to add another starting pitcher, and the front office listened. It might not have been what he was thinking of, but the Chicago White Sox signed free agent starting pitcher Mike Clevinger to a one-year deal on Sunday. Clevinger comes to the South Side with some baggage, but the addition might very well be worth the risk.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some of your time to talk off-season White Sox. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. More rumors point to the White Sox having interest in Brewers second baseman Colton Wong. Mike Clevinger made a choice in 2020 that could have forced Cleveland's hand. And can Ethan Katz work his magic on a reclamation project? Welcome back, folks. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving break. Thank you for letting me steal more of your time talking White Sox. And we've got some actual news to discuss here. Former Cleveland and now former San Diego Padres starting pitcher Mike Clevinger joins the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, we need another starter. Ethan Katz said that during a video conference call on November 17th. That right now is our biggest need from the pitching standpoint. We're having dialogue. We'll see how things play out, but we do need another starter. Well, the Sox got their man, I guess. Sunday afternoon, free agent starter Mike Clevinger was in agreement to join the White Sox pending a physical per Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. And then shortly after 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're hearing John Morrissey of MLB Network added that the deal was for 1 year. Clevinger, who turns 32 on December 21st, spent parts of 5 seasons in Cleveland before being traded to San Diego in 2020. He went 7-7 with a 4.33 ERA and 91 strikeouts in 23 appearances for the Padres in 2022 after missing all of 2021, recovering from his second Tommy John surgery. Clevinger has a 51-30 record with a 3.39 ERA and 694 strikeouts in 128 outings. 114 of them have been starts with Cleveland, 2016 through 2020, and San Diego, 2020. Parts of it, I should say, and then 2022. Clevinger began this past season on the injured list with a right knee sprain, missed another 2+ weeks in May with a tricep strain, and spent time on the COVID list in June. He'd been dealing with a knee discomfort down the stretch of the 2022 season as well. He struggled throughout the Padres run in the NLCS, allowing 7 earned runs in 2 2/3 of an inning across 2 postseason starts. Injuries, of course, have played a huge role in Clevinger's recent performance. He missed, again, the 2021 season, recovering from, again, his second Tommy John surgery, and a right knee sprain suffered in spring training cost him the first month of this past season and had lingering effects for the rest of the year. He also spent time on the injured list in 2022 with a right tricep strain. From 2017 through 2020, mostly pitching for Cleveland, Clevinger put up a 2.96 ERA over 489 and a third innings, including an excellent 19K, strikeout to walk ratio. He was quite possibly, one of the best pitchers in baseball during that time. We saw him quite a bit on the South side. MLB trade rumors ranked Clevinger 49th on their top 50 free agents list. They were predicting a 1-year, $7 million deal. So we'll see if they were right on the dollar amount. So Ethan Katz was looking for another starter, and he might have his hands full with Clevinger. Katz has worked his magic and has helped Sox pitchers redefine certain parts of their game, whether it was their motion, grip, or general approach. However, it's tough to help a pitcher rediscover their former self if they can't stay healthy. The White Sox starting staff already had question marks. Giolito is attempting to return to his former self after a disappointing and confusing 2022 campaign. Lance Lynn is coming off of a season that featured his own health issues. He's not getting any younger. And Kopech is rehabbing from knee surgery. Dylan Cease is got to be viewed as the least concerning member of the starting staff. So buying low, perhaps on Clevinger, so the front office can continue to shop to address the other holes is the only way that this makes sense. Adding another question mark to a starting staff that already is full of them does not exactly get me excited. This can't be the only pitching-related move, can it? Mike Clevinger, he's a veteran and has had a lot of success in his career, especially against us. Clevinger had a 5-2 record with an ERA of 2.15 and 75 strikeouts in 11 appearances against our White Sox in his career. 10 of those appearances came while wearing a Cleveland uniform. The Sox faced Clevinger on October 1st of this past season. Clevinger went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run on 3 hits in a winning effort. Mike Clevinger had a fallout of sorts with his Cleveland team in August of 2020. I'm going to tell you how his choice has affected his reputation. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and I'm sure you do, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way for your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So in early August 2020, and I'm sure you remember this, you heard all about it. It was big news. In early August 2020, Cleveland pitcher Zach Plesac acknowledged breaking team curfew when he and Clevinger left the team hotel, went out to dinner, and socialized with Plesac's friends. Plesac had pitched earlier in the day, getting the win as Cleveland beat our White Sox. That, of course, was a big deal in August 2020 with everything that was going on with COVID. After Cleveland was told by Major League Baseball security about the players being out in public, the team got a car service to drive Plesac home so he wouldn't risk exposing himself to teammates if he had been infected by COVID. Plesac said he and Clevinger were within CDC guidelines when they left the team hotel and were never with more than 8 people the entire night. He felt he and Clevinger were being cast as bad teammates, bad people, and dragged across the mud. Cleveland manager Terry Francona said Plesac and Clevinger got some trust to earn back, and they're going to have to earn that back. A few days after Clevinger and Plesac broke the team's code of conduct, they drew the wrath of teammates who expressed their unhappiness during a team meeting. Clevinger said earlier after that he doesn't want this one mistake to define who he is as a player and teammate. This is what Clevinger had to say. Quote, "I wasn't going to let that moment define me as a person going forward. I know the changes that had to be put in place and maybe some self-reflecting that needed to be done was done. And I never want to put any organization, let alone the Indians, in a predicament like that again. I never was a distraction before, and I don't plan on ever being a distraction from anybody," end quote. In late August 2020, with 2 years of team control left on his contract, Cleveland traded Clevinger to the San Diego Padres. This trade, of course, came just weeks after he broke team curfew with Plesac in Chicago. So, there are no shortage of different rumors surrounding the character of Mike Clevinger. You can really go down some rabbit holes on this guy. Maybe you have already. I'm not sure what you've heard, what you haven't heard. And, there's a lot of stuff out there. And maybe your opinion has already been formed on this guy. Character aside with Clevinger, I'm just not terribly thrilled about the move because of his injury history and his mediocre 2022 season. I did reach out to Javier Reyes. He is the host of Locked On Padres, and I wanted to get his reaction to this signing. And here is what he said to me about Clevinger. He said, "It's hard to evaluate because of the injuries, but he was inconsistently maddening time and time again. All they needed from him was to be okay, and he would be the complete antithesis of that. Got worse as the season went on. Velocity dropped, all around bad vibes." I think Javier is going to join me later this week, be a guest on Locked On White Sox to get a little deeper perspective on Clevinger in his time spent in a San Diego Padres uniform. Again, Clevinger in 2022 was 7-7, a 4.33 ERA in 22 starts, 114 innings, 91 strikeouts, and 35 walks. So with the Clevinger addition, it's very likely that Johnny Cueto will not return to the White Sox. Now, Cueto's 2022 numbers, he was 8-10 with a 3.35 ERA, 25 starts, 158 innings pitched, 102 strikeouts, and 33 walks. There's about a 5 to 6 year age difference between Clevinger and Cueto. Again, the door might not be completely closed on bringing back Cueto, but it seems likely with this move. White Sox need a veteran, reliable second baseman in the worst way, and that person hopefully has some power. I'm going to tell you why Colton Wong's name keeps popping up. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. If you've thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up right now. Locked On White Sox listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spiked nationally? That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real, so you get priority police response. Simply Safe is whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs less than $1 a day, less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere, arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings. Don't miss your chance to save big this holiday season. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnMLB today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplysafe.com/LockedOnMLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Okay, more and more rumors about Kolten Wong, second baseman from the Milwaukee Brewers. They picked up his option, so there's going to have to be a deal with Milwaukee. What could that look like? Bruce Levine, MLB insider for 670 The Score, recently linked the White Sox to Milwaukee Brewers left-handed hitting second baseman Kolten Wong. I'm going to talk to Brandon Snide, the host of Locked On Brewers, later this week to get a sense of what Milwaukee might be asking in return for Kolten Wong, but he checks all the boxes for the Chicago White Sox. There was an article by The Athletic a few days ago by Jim Bowden you might have checked out, entitled MLB Trade and Free Agent Matches, Solutions for Each AL Team's Most Pressing Needs, again by Jim Bowden. And this is what he had to say about the Chicago White Sox. Not terribly surprising. We've known this, and we seemingly have known it for several seasons. Needs for the White Sox: a left-handed hitting outfielder. How about that? Second base, a starting pitcher, which they might have just gotten with Clevinger. Free agent targets: Brandon Nimmo, Andrew Benintendi, Cody Bellinger, Adam Frazier, Carlos Rodon, Chris Bassett. Let's see here. Sean Manaea, Ross Stripling. There's a few other names. The trade targets that are really interesting to me, though, because it does seem like, from what Rick Hahn has said, the Chicago White Sox are going to be creative through the trade market. Very limited money to spend. That's why I don't think that Clevinger deal was for terribly much. So trade targets, according to Jim Bowden: Kolten Wong, second baseman from the Milwaukee Brewers; Brandon Lowe, and Ian Happ. This is what Bowden had to say. The White Sox made an excellent hire in manager Pedro Grifol, who should be their long-term solution in that role. Now they're working on acquiring a left-handed hitting outfielder who is also a solid defensive player, such as Brandon Nimmo or Andrew Benintendi. They're also looking to upgrade second base again and prefer a left-handed hitter there as well. That would be Kolten Wong. From what I'm hearing, they've been dabbling in the free agent starting pitching market too. So that must have been the Mike Clevinger deal. We'll see. I think Kolten Wong makes a lot of sense. What could Milwaukee be interested in? We'll talk to the Locked On Brewers host later this week, as well as the Locked On San Diego Padres host later this week, to get a better sense of Mike Clevinger. Also, the Padres are interested in signing Jose Abreu. So I think Javier Reyes wants to know what they're getting in San Diego, and it's all good things, really. So that should be a fun, interesting conversation with those hosts. Folks, really appreciate you making time once again for the Locked On White Sox podcast. Really appreciate all the recent subscribers onto the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet and you'd like to, just search Locked On White Sox YouTube channel, subscribe. It really helps us out. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I'll continue to examine off-season White Sox scenarios as the Sox go full steam ahead with the Pedro Grifol era. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.